this is how I make the sauerkraut. So first just I can move all this stuff out of the way. Just shred it. You can shred it with whatever shredder you're going to use. I just use the knife, but just put all that into your bowl. I bought some cheap cabbage yesterday on special, the red, and I've also got a red sitting in the that was sitting in the fridge. So I'm going to use that and shred all those and put all that into the bowl, and then I'll add some salt. I'll show you how I do that. Now I'm on to one of the red cabbages, and I've cut up a quarter already and another quarter of a green in there. There's around 2 kilos of cabbage here, so I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons of salt, just normal sea salt, not iodized salt. Now these outer layers here, you keep them, and I'll show you why later on, because you want to fold them up, and when you're putting your weight on top to keep everything submerged under the water, under the brine, you can use these as a bit of a barrier. So you keep them. Here's another couple here I've put aside, and I'm going to do this in a big jar, and now do 2 kilos and let that sit, and in 2 weeks I'll have a lot of sauerkraut to be jarred, put in jars, and I can store, or I can give them away. But look, here's a prime example. I've just put some sauerkraut I made on the 13th, which was 2 weeks ago, a bit over. Caraway, mustard, chili and peppercorn in that one. But I've just put that in my wrap here, and you eat this every day, and it's the highest concentrated form of vitamin C on the planet. The red apparently is a bit better than the green, but the green is more traditional, and it's got definitely more of a traditional sort of, I think anyway, taste to it. The red's got a little bit of a different taste. Can't really explain it. I think it's a little bit sweeter. But I'll just wanted to show you to keep these sort of outer leaves, because they come in handy later on. So you can sort of peel those off a bit and then keep those. Now I'll just shred that. Make sure you decore as well. You can see my little compost bin here, which goes out to my worms. And the compost bin, I just take the core out of the cabbage, because they're a bit too, you don't want to eat that. So you can sort of see it here. I'll take this out here and I'll shred that up. To do the extra quarter that I had. So it's probably going to be about 1.5 kilos roughly. I did weigh it, but I'm going to guess this one. So as far as salt, doesn't matter. 1.5 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons, doesn't matter. I'll add that in now, and then I'll just sort of work it in with my hand. You can actually use another, a wooden spoon or something else, like some sort of hammer type of tool. I'll show you what I've got. Who imports them from Europe, and it's great for mashing potatoes or mince. But I use it also to smash the sauerkraut with the salt, and then you want to allow it to sit for around about half an hour at least. Because what will happen is all the salt will just draw all the moisture out of the cabbage, and will create a nice brine for you, which is what you want when you start compacting it and pushing out. So I'm going to put it into this sort of big vase jar thing that I found on the shelf the other month. I'm going to put it in there, and then I'm going to put another another jar, or even just a jar full of sauerkraut that I've got fermenting at the moment, and I'll put that sitting on top in there, and that will push down on top of the cabbage leaves here. They will sit on the top, they'll push down, and they'll keep everything submerged under that brine, which is what you want, because if it isn't, you'll get mold and all that sort of stuff, which is okay. You just need to scrape it out and take it out. That's fine. It's just you want everything under the brine. So I'll add the salt, and I'll show you what in the next stage. These spoons, and it's not a tablespoon, it's smaller, so it's probably about 1.5 tablespoons of salt, I'd say, something around there. Some people say you don't need as much salt. Others are, go on about 2 to 3%. That should be fine. This will be fine, no problem. I haven't had any issues with it. Rule of thumb: 1 tablespoon to 1 kilo of cabbage. That's a good rule of thumb. Sometimes when I'm just making a jar like this, I'll put a teaspoon of salt in the cabbage if I'm using, let's say, 300 grams of cabbage, which will be pretty much ideal for this size jar. So yeah, don't get too paranoid with the salt. You just want to add enough so you don't get any issues. You definitely want to have salt, obviously, as the brine, which is going to create the fermentation process and kill any bad bacteria and stop any bad bacteria from growing. Alright, so I'll get that in, and then I'll start to, really start to get that salt in, or use my hand. Obviously it's a bit harder now doing one-handed, but you get the idea of, you can really work that in. I've seen people using a wooden spoon to do this. That's good. If you've got weak hands, that's fine. Just give it a bash, give it a bit of a stir around, and start to work it in and get that salt. That's the whole point of this, is to get that salt worked into all the cabbage. Try and get down the bottom there where that green stuff is. So this one will look pretty cool. I'm probably going to add some caraway seed, some mustard. They're the typical ones I add. And I'm going to add a little bit more caraway mustard, because I've noticed I've been a little bit, not adding as much. So I think I'm going to add a little bit more just to get a bit more of the flavour and taste. So you get big pieces like that when I do it, which isn't, that might be a core bit. I'll throw that. But yeah, so you want to sort of try and work it in for about 5 minutes or so. So it's already starting to get quite wet, you can see that there, and that's from the salt. And I'm doing it with one hand, so it's pretty difficult, but trying to get that bottom stuff up. So yeah, that's the whole idea, is just getting that salt into the mix and making sure everything is covered and has a bit of a coating, a salt coating, and yeah, squeeze it if you can, and it'll draw all that moisture out of the cabbage, which, as I said, creates the brine. So I'll just pause the video and I'll come back in a second. Just added a spoon this size, not a tablespoon, but a spoon of caraway, and a spoon this size of yellow mustard seed. So added those in. You can already see it's like reduced quite a lot, but that will reduce even more. So I'm just going to give that another stir with my hands and just really work all that caraway and mustard seed back into the mix, and then wait a little while. Like I said, you can wait at least half an hour you want to wait, and you'll find that it draws out all the moisture, gets really wet, which is what you want. I used to when I did it a couple of times where I just added it in and then I had to add water, but it just isn't the same. You get a real deep, rich red colour when you do this and let it sit for a while and let its own brine create, as opposed to you adding brine. It's like a cheats way where you can make your own salted water and your brine and add that in and top it up. That's a real quick way of doing it, but I found that letting it sit and it drawing out its own brine is much better. It's a much better product in the end, as opposed to doing it a real quick way. But if you don't have the time and you want to do it real quick, make sure you use your distilled or pure water, add your ratio of salt, tip it in, and that's fine. But as I said, you get a better sauerkraut when you do it like this. This is the traditional way of doing it, where you just let it sit for a while and let it create its own brine. Alright, so I'll come back shortly once I've mixed all that in, and we'll see how it's looking. Right, so I've mixed it all up. As you can see, it's really starting to draw out the moisture now. You could probably, if we went to the bottom, we could probably see that down there. You can see I'm trying to do this with one hand. see all that water down there. That's all the brine coming out, and that's what you want. That is amazing to drink once that's fermented as well. Fermented cabbage juice, phenomenal in probiotics. So I'll let this sit now. I've done a bit of a clean up. You do get a bit messy doing it, but once it's doing all that, just give your bench a bit of a clean up, and then let it sit for like I said, a minimum sort of half an hour. It's probably been sitting for about 10 minutes already, 10-15 minutes. So I'll come back in a little while, and then we'll start jarring it up. Alright, so we're back again, and this, you can see I've left this for a while, well over half an hour, that's for sure, and you can see how moist it is. You can see, look at that, dripping when I squeeze it. That's what you want. Nice, beautiful. It's now reduced a lot in size, and right down the bottom you'll get lots and lots of, look at all that brine down there. That's what you want. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to sort of knead that around a bit, and then we're going to transfer it over into that jar, and then the leaves, push it down, really compact it, and then
Hello.
We're going to
Hi.
Ash,
Hi.
we're going to
I'm just talking.
compact it, put the leaves on top, put a weight on top. Put all the cabbage out of the bowl into the jar, which that's how much it's sort of condensed or broken down to. Now I just want to push it down, really compact it in, and really push it down and get all that juice coming out. Can actually use the other side of this to push it, pack it in. You can see from that big bowl how much it's reduced down to. So it's not even, not even half of this big jar. So I could even, which I probably will do, is take out the other bit of cabbage, shred it up, let it sit for a bit longer, and add it to that, because I really want to get quite a lot out of it. So I might do that. I'll let that sit, put a little tea towel over it, and then come back to you. Right, so I just added another quarter, that other quarter that I put away. I just shredded it up, added the salt, caraway and the mustard seeds. Now I'm going to really mix it up with my hands again, let it sit again, and then add it to this batch. So you can already see how wet that is. And have a look at that, it's fresh. See if we can get any decent shots. Not really, but it gives you an idea. So yeah, this is a big bit of glass here. It could probably fit like three litres at least, I reckon, of sauerkraut in there, which is good. So I'll get into that, and I'll come back once I've done this and let it sit for another half an hour. Right, so it's been about half an hour. You can see it's reduced already, and all the how wet it is now. So it's ready to go into the pot, and then I'll just show you once that's all in. I'll show you the next process, the next step. So I've put you can see I've put the leaves in on top. Let's see if we can get a better view of that. I've put them all in, sort of folding. Try and when you put the leaves in, make sure they're folding, curling that way, not curling up like a bowl, like an upside down bowl, down, because then they're going to be a bit flatter. So you don't want to try and see how they curl up a little bit there. You don't really want that. So I'm going to add some water, so it's not even half of this big jar. So I could even, which I probably will do, is take out the other bit of cabbage, shred it up, let it sit for a bit longer, and add it to that, because I really want to get quite a lot out of it. So I might do that. I'll let that sit, put a little tea towel over it, and then come back to you. Alright, so I just added another quarter, that other quarter that I put away. I just shredded it up, added the salt, caraway and the mustard seeds. Now I'm going to really mix it up with my hands again, let it sit again, and then add it to this batch. So you can already see how wet that is. And have a look at that, it's fresh. See if we can get any decent shots. Not really, but it gives you an idea. So yeah, this is a big bit of glass here. It could probably fit like three litres at least, I reckon, of sauerkraut in there, which is good. So I'll get into that and I'll come back once I've done this and let it sit for another half an hour. Right, so it's been about half an hour. You can see it's reduced already and all that, how wet it is now. So it's ready to go into the pot, and then I'll just show you once that's all in. I'll show you the next process, the next step. So I've put you can see I've put the leaves in on top. Let's see if we can get a better view of that. I've put them all in, sort of folding. Try and when you put the leaves in, make sure they're folding, curling that way, not curling up like a bowl, like an upside down bowl, down, because then they're going to be a bit flatter. So you don't want to try and see how they curl up a little bit there. You don't really want that. So I'm going to add some water. Water I boiled earlier today, because I've done this before, because this isn't sitting underwater. Usually if you get a jar and you can press it like this one, you can push the brine. See all that there? That's just pushed brine basically. That's when you compress it all down and all the water comes up. You can't really do it when it's this big. So this is a little bit unusual. If you're doing them in little batches, you don't even need to add water. But with this one I'm going to add some water just to cover it. And then I want to, I might add a little bit more salt just to the top. And just see how that looks for now. Yeah, so see this out of the water there. I want to try and get them under the water. Alright, now I've just pushed everything around the sides just to make sure they're all going to be underwater. So that's fine. Now I'll take this jar out and I'll add a little bit of salt to the top. And it's ready to go, and then I can just put a towel or a tea towel over the top. It's all been pushed under, it's all submerged, which is good. Even if you get something floating on top, that's fine, because it's still under the water. It's still submerged, so it's still going to be covered by that salt, that brine, and that's what you want. If it's sitting out of the water and there's no salt on it, it dries out, that's when you'll get mould and issues. So that's pretty much done like that. Now all I need to do is just whack a tea towel over the top of it, like so. Put an elastic band. That's ready to go. I can sit that now up on the shelf. Towel, just elastic band over the top, so I can breathe around here, around this top bit here with the jar inside. That's fine. And then I'll put a label on it as well. Alright, there we go. Simple label. Caraway mustard, today's date. Pop that up on the shelf. There it is. So it's got today's date. These are all the other ones I've made. Look, this one's 16th. These are different ones. They're kale. They've got some kale in it. Kale, carrot and sauerkraut. There's another little one. It's got kale. We're trying that one out. Got some plain. There's a big one made on the first. So that one was also made in one of this big pot up here. So a whole bunch of these. Here's another red one, just a plain one. And here's some more down here, just amongst the angels. As you can see, they're all loving the kraut, especially this guy. Look at him, he's like, please, can I have some kraut, please? There's a plain one. A carrot, this one plain. So these ones here I didn't shred and I shredded, but I didn't massage. You can see the texture. You can almost see it's a bit crunchier. They didn't sit for half an hour. I just put them in and added brine, and you can see the difference. Definitely, you can see the texture in it. It's more defined, whereas The other ones like this, it looks very mashed and almost softer, whereas this looks a lot harder. So this, I dare say, will be a lot crunchier. So yeah, that's the kraut. That's how you make it. That's ready to go. So give it a couple of weeks, and that one will be perfect, and it will be really nice and very, very healthy. Lactobacillia, I can't remember how to pronounce it, but that's the main probiotic. But there is other probiotics in there as well. But you get a lot of. It's very, very good for your gut. And once again, it's the highest form of concentration of vitamin C on the planet. Anyway, thanks for watching.